Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a regular meeting of the Newark Zoning Board of Adjustment. Today's date is Thursday, July 25th, 2024. The purpose of this meeting is to hear requests for variances from the Newark zoning and land use regulations under the authority of the municipal land use law. If you're an applicant for a D or use variance, you should be aware that such a variance can only be granted after showing that special reasons for the grant of the variance exist and that the variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the zoning plan of the city of Newark. You should also be aware that in order to be granted such a variance, you require an affirmative vote of 5 members of the 7-member Board of Adjustment. Other variances require a majority of 4 votes to grant the variance. If you're an applicant for any variance and your variance is denied by this board, you have a right to appeal to the Superior Court of the State of New Jersey within 45 days of notice of the decision, and that court may overturn the decision of this board. If you're an objector to any type of variance and the variance is granted, you too may appeal to the Superior Court of the State of New Jersey within 45 days of the decision of this board. If you do file an appeal of the board's decision, we ask that in addition to complying with any notice required by statute or court rule, that you serve a copy of your pleadings on the zoning board secretary. Pursuant to the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, also known as the Sunshine Law, adequate notice of this meeting was provided by notifying the Star Ledger, the Jersey Journal, the Newark City Clerk, and posting a copy on the bulletin board in the basement of Newark City Hall. In addition to adequate notice under the Open Public Meetings Act, electronic notice of this remote public meeting was placed on the City of Newark's website as permitted by statute. Members of the public may notify the host that you would like to ask questions or make statements by using the raised hand feature at the bottom of your computer screen or mobile device. If you're on a telephone, you can press *9 and that will alert us. I'd like to remind everyone that the board is a quasi-judicial board, and if an appeal is taken to the Superior Court, we are required to provide the Superior Court with a copy of the official transcript. The chat is not part of the official transcript. And we want to make sure that any comments you have, any questions you have, and the answer to those questions are properly recorded on the official transcript. So please, I ask that you refrain from using the chat, use the raise hand feature. We'll make sure that you have an opportunity to make your statement at the appropriate time, or to ask your question and get an answer from the various witnesses. Additionally, the chat pops up when you use it as if you were speaking out loud if we were meeting in person, and it's disruptive. So again, I ask you to refrain from using the chat. The meeting of the Board of Adjustment will now come to order. Madam Secretary, excuse me, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, Member Hardesty.
You're muted.
Member Comesañas.
Okay, President, I couldn't get off of mute.
Member Comesañas. Member Jones.
Present.
Member Rivero.
Present.
Member Cobian.
Present.
Member Torres.
Present.
Chair Afan.
Present. Are there any requests for adjournments or postponements? I see 3 raised hands, which is scary because we only have 3 cases. I see, excuse me. I see, Ms. Carrillo Perez. What case are you appearing on, Ms. Perez?
Good evening, ZBA 23-69 Salvation Counseling on Warren Street.
Okay, excuse me. This is, application ZBA 23-69, 226, 230 Warren Street. Are there any persons that have an interest in this case? If so, please raise your hand so we can identify you. That's 226, 230 Warren Street. If you have an interest in that, please raise your hand. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 raised hands. Could you bring those persons in, Ms. Mejia? Is everyone in, Ms. Mejia?
Yes.
Can we-
Everyone accepted. There's 2 people who declined the invitation.
All right, how many raised hands were there? I think there were more than my count, and
Yes, there were. And there's more raised now.
yes.
So there are 13.
I'm sorry, did you have a final count, Ms. Mejia?
13. as of now,
13.
But there's
Right.
more hands that are being raised. Every day.
13,
14.
okay. So 17 with these 4 more?
Yes.
Okay. So there's approximately 17, there may be more hands that were raised when I asked for persons with an interest in this case. Once again, this is application ZBA 24-14, 740. No, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong case, right? You're on Warren Street?
I am.
This is application ZBA 23-69, 226 230 Warren Street. Counsel, your appearance for the record, please.
Good evening, Jennifer Carrillo Perez of Carmel Foley on behalf of the applicant, Salvation Counseling.
Okay. How can we assist you, counsel?
Oh, so, good evening, board members. I had adjourned the previous one to have a community meeting. We did have a community meeting. Our intention was to proceed this evening. I actually have a personal conflict that's come up, one of our professionals as well. I cannot get out of it. I apologize. And so I'm asking for the courtesy of this board to extend an adjournment until the next available meeting date. I appear regularly before you. Something I rarely do with respect, unless it's absolutely necessary. So I do apologize, but I do need an extension, an adjournment, so that I am able to present this case at another date.
Are there any questions from the board for counsel? Questions for counsel from the board? Counsel, if the board does vote to grant you the request, do you agree to waive the tolling of the time period?
I will.
And counsel, if the board does agree, would you be willing to see if you can update the date on the sign and maybe do not a certified mailing, but consider doing a regular mailing?
We do.
And does that mean you will?
Yes, we will. I'm sorry.
Okay, are there any questions from the board for counsel? Any questions from the board for counsel? We don't usually take questions from the public at this point, but I see two hand raised. I'm gonna just ask the person with the screen name Dawn to turn on your camera and unmute yourself. You have a question? If you can give us your name first. Hello?
Yes, good evening. I'm trying to turn on my camera.
What is your name, ma'am?
My name's Dawn Manning.
Ms. Manning, you have a question?
My question was just with regard to the mailing. Council indicated that she would send notices out, I think, based on your request. As council may recall, during the community meeting, she indicated that mailers had previously been sent. And many of the people at the meeting indicated we did not receive any such mailing. And so how will we ensure that we get the new mailing that she sent?
Excuse me. What the law requires is for the applicant to send certified mail notice of the application to all property owners within a 200-foot radius. If the applicant uses the list of property owners supplied by the city, that is deemed sufficient. Often what happens if persons live in a rental unit, they may not get notice because they're not the owner of the property. However, if you are here tonight, the board will suggest the date. And if that date passes, that will be the new date that this is heard. I hope that's helpful.
That is helpful. And Mr. Chair, would it be appropriate for me to provide Ms. Perez with my information directly? I am an owner and I
Sure.
get mail from the city of Newark.
Do you
So I'm
have
not sure why I didn't get this mail.
Do you have council's office address?
I believe so.
Okay, sure. I'm sure she could deal with that. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Screen name Tabitha, can you unmute yourself and turn your video on?
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for the right to speak on this call. Unfortunately, my camera is not working right now, but I can keep
Understood.
it.
Can you give us your name for the record, please?
Sure, Tabitha Robinson.
Hi, Ms. Robinson. What is your question?
Is there a limitation on how often these extensions can be granted? My understanding is this is not the first time council's office has asked for an extension, and the date on the posting at the location remains May 30th.
Right.
So it was not updated July 25th, and hopefully it will be updated to whatever date the board decides.
Right. And council did, as a courtesy, not as a requirement of law, but as a courtesy at the board's request, did agree to do that. So council can ask for adjournments as often as council wants to ask for adjournments. It's up to the board to grant it. And this would be the second adjournment this council is requesting on this case. I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Carter.
Good evening. I have a question as it relates to the mailings within 200 feet of the location. Now, I'm part of the Society Hill community that is outside of that 200 feet, but we are owners also of the community center, the clubhouse, the tennis court, the playground, the swimming pool where children play, right across the street from this program. So is it possible for council to maybe email it to our HOA management so that they can disperse it to owners of all three phases that use these facilities that are across the street from this program?
So if council chooses to do that, she can, but we don't have the power to force her to do that.
Okay,
Excuse me, the law only requires that they give notice to persons within a 200-foot radius.
okay,
However, anyone who gets that notice is free to post it wherever they care to post it.
okay. Well, our management company is within that clubhouse that's right across the street from there, so that's within the 200 feet.
Right, so
Okay,
I don't know that the management company would get it. I don't
okay,
know if the management company is the owner, but there are persons on this screen who are within the 200-foot.
Okay.
So they can certainly do that if they care to do so.
okay.
Okay, I see no other hands raised. Are there any questions from the board? It's always it's always a danger for me to say that, because when I say that, there's always.
Well, I don't have a question, but I just hope council, even though we can't mandate some of the requests from the community, that, they would consider making sure those signs get changed and the notices go out.
And that was Commissioner Hardesty. Thank you, Commissioner Hardesty. I echo Commissioner Hardesty's request to council. Ms. Mejia, is there an available date? Now, what's the next available date?
August 29th.
Council, August 29th?
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to be asking for a motion from the board to adjourn this matter to August 29th. If the board votes to do so, this matter will be back on the agenda for August 29th. Legally, the council will not be required to give any further notice. However, council has told the board that she will go beyond the legal duty and update the sign with a sticker and with the new date, and send out a regular mail notice to owners within 200 feet. Is that fair to say, council?
Yes.
council has further agreed to waive the tolling of the time period. Is that correct, council?
It is.
May I have a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion from Commissioner Comisarios,
Second.
and we have a second from Commissioner Cobian. Call the roll, please.
Member Hardesty,
Yes.
Member Comesañas,
Yes.
Member Jones,
Yes.
Member Rivero,
Yes.
Member Cobian,
Yes.
Member Torres,
Yes.
Chair Alfano.
Yes, this matter will be adjourned to August the 29th. I want to thank everybody for coming out and hope to see you on August 29th.
Thank you. Good
Have a
evening.
good night, council. Have a good night, folks from the community. Are there any other requests for adjournments or postponements? I don't think Mr. Velozzi wants an adjournment. He's just saying hello. No? He put up the official hand. Council, which application are you on?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the board. ZBA 24-14 for the property at 740-742 North Sixth Street.
Gotcha. Are there any persons with an interest in application ZBA 24-14, 740-742 North Sixth Street? If you have any interest in that application, please feel free to raise your hand. We'll bring you into the panel. I see 3 raised hands. 4 raised hands. 5 raised hands. Okay. I can't, 6 raised hands. 7 raised hands. If you raise your hand, we're going to promote you to the panelists. When you get the invitation to join the panel, if you want to, you will have to agree to join the panel. I think I saw 8 raised hands. Is that correct, Ms. Mejia?
Yes.
Okay. I'll assume everyone that raised your hand was invited to join. Once again, this is application ZBA 24-14, 740, 742 North Sixth Street. Counsel, your appearance for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. Noemi Velozzi on behalf of the applicant, Eric Guevara for the application ZBA 24-14. We are requesting an adjournment tonight. We have all the reports. They came in today and we need to review them all with the proper city departments.
So, Mr. Velozzi, am I correct that there was one report from the city surveyor, which you got, I don't know, I guess late this afternoon?
That is correct, Mr. Raffo.
Well, I, on behalf of the board, although we had nothing to do with that, apologize for that late notice. And let me just explain to community members what I'm referring to. That in deciding these cases, the board depends and looks forward to reports from staff members, planning board staff like Mr. Hazel, who's on this, staff from the city's Department of Engineering, and staff reports from the Department of Water and Sewer, and where necessary, staff from the city surveyor. They review the applications, review the site, make a report to the board, and may raise conditions that have to be met, tests that have to be conducted, objections that the applicant has to consider, and either come up with a defense to suggest why those objections are incorrect, or to change their plans to otherwise deal with those objections. I did see late this afternoon that our board secretary, Ms. Mejia, received a late report from the city surveyor. They apologize for the lateness of the report, but it has significance on whether this application will be able to go forward or not. It would clearly be unfair for the applicant to be denied an opportunity to review this and see whether they can make changes if possible. And it would be unfair to the citizens who are here to object to hear this case when there are serious questions being raised by the city's staff, here the surveyor. So that's why council is here to request an adjournment through no fault of the applicant. Is that fair to say, council?
That is, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any questions for council from the board? Again, although I don't normally do this, if are there any questions regarding this from members of the public? Can you unmute yourself and give us your name, sir?
Sure. My name is Stephen Wilcox, and I am an owner occupier here. And I'm actually here outside with 8 other owner occupiers. I'd just like to take the message that the board understands that the logistics in us organizing a response
Sir?
takes time.
Yeah. You have a question regarding this request for an adjournment?
Same questions as the last application. Can we be assured that the board will be updated outside with the new date? Can we be assured that we will get letters telling us of the new date, giving us adequate time to get all the people together again to voice their opinions?
So I will certainly ask council if, as a gesture of goodwill, they would be willing to do this, but as I stated, the law does not require the applicant to do this. However, if the board votes to grant this adjournment, you will know the date right this evening. Okay?
We thank the board.
My pleasure. Any other questions regarding this matter? I see none. Mr. Velozzi, would you be willing to put a sticker on the board, the notice board, I'll call it, with the new date?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And I appreciate that. And would you be willing to send out regular mail notices to the owners within 200 feet with the new date?
That's fine. That's acceptable.
And would you agree to waive the tolling of the time period?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Ms. Mejia, what's the next available date?
August 29th.
Does that
Mr.
work for you, council?
Mr. Chairman, because of the issues that I'm looking at, I would ask if we can push it all the way to the end of September. Sylvia?
September 26th.
That would give us sufficient time.
Understood. So, if the board adopts this motion, the council has agreed to put a sticker on the sign with the new date, which will be September 26th, if the board grants the motion. Same time, 6 o'clock. And council has agreed to send out letters by regular mail to the list provided by the city of owners within a 200-foot radius. Fair to say, council?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
May I have a motion to adjourn this matter to September 26th?
Motion.
Second,
Who is that? Motion, Commissioner.
Torres.
Second, Commissioner Kobiak. Call the roll, please.
Member Hardesty,
Yes.
Member Jones. Member Jones,
Did we lose Member Jones? She was here. Oh, no, she's here.
Member Rivera,
Who's she? You're muted, Member Jones.
Yes.
Member Cobian,
Yes.
Member Torres,
Yes.
Chair Alphonse.
Yes. This application is adjourned to September 26th with the conditions stated on the record. Want to thank the community members for coming out. Hope to see you on September 26th. And just a note, it may be helpful to contact council's office to raise the concerns you have and see if you can learn more, maybe, and if council can address those, council's client can address those concerns. You'll have council's contact information on either the letter you received or the sign. Is that fair, council?
That's acceptable, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you and have a good night, everyone. So after all this work, I don't know, should we take a break? I don't know. No. This is like a return to the old days. Right?
Yeah.
Mr. Hazel, don't forget to note that these are being adjourned on the request of council, not us.
Absolutely.
Are there any other requests? I'm afraid to ask for adjournments or postponements. I see none. Call the first case, please.
The time is now 6:52 p.m. The next item on tonight's agenda is ZBA 24-26, located at 628 South 12th Street, Block 315, Lot 5 in the South Ward. The applicant is Blackman Homes LLC. In the C2 zone, the applicant proposes construction of a new 3-story 2-family dwelling. Applicant is seeking a D1 use variance to permit a 2-family. Site plan approval is not required.
Excuse me. The Board of Adjustment made the following findings of fact with respect to this property at 628 South 12th Street. It's located in Newark's West Ward and in Newark's West Side neighborhood on the eastern side of South 12th Street between Springfield and 18th Avenues. The total site area is approximately 2,580 square feet. The surrounding land uses consist of townhouse developments, detached 2-story dwellings, and a vacant parcel. Ms. Pelosi, is this your application?
It is, Mr. Chairman. I don't see Mr. McDonough.
Excuse me?
I said it is my application, Mr. Chairman, but I don't see Mr. McDonough. I see Mr. Fernandez, but I don't see Mr. McDonough.
Okay. Well,
Mr. Flynn is joining now.
Mr. Flynn is here.
Mr. Flynn is here. Then we are ready to proceed.
Okay. This is application ZBA 24 26, 628 South 12th Street. Are there any objectors on this application? If so, please identify yourself by raising your hand. You can raise your hand by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your computer device or your or your telephone screen. If you're on your mobile device. If you are on a telephone, press *9. I'd ask you to do so now. I see no raised hands. Council?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, again. Noemi Velozzi on behalf of the application ZBA 2426 for the applicant, Blackman Homes LLC. I would request that we can have Mr. Fernandez sworn in.
Mr. Fernandez, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, your address, and relationship to this application.
Jorge Fernandez, Fernandes, registered architect, business address 75 Parkhurst Street, Newark, New Jersey.
Ms. Fernandez, is your architectural license in the state of New Jersey in full force and effect?
Yeah, it is.
Ms. Fernandez is well known to this board. Will accept him as an expert in the field of architecture. Counsel?
Thank you. Mr. Fernandez, have you reviewed the June 11th engineering report?
Yes.
And are we okay with the report?
Yes. No.
Okay. Mr. Trafficante had some questions as to an existing iron fence and wall on the east front yard of the subject lot. Can you enlighten us?
Yes. The fence will have to be removed as part of this the new proposed development.
What about the existing staircase in the east front yard?
The staircase, whatever is on the site right now, will have to be removed.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. And you've also reviewed the planner's report, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Can you take us through the plans, please?
Sure. So this is the plans for 628 South 12th Street. We have an existing site that is 25 by 100, but it tapers to 26 feet in width at the South 12th Street frontage. It's currently vacant. There are some, there's that existing fence that's on the site that will have to be removed as part of the development. We're proposing to do is to build a three-story, two-family home that pretty much conforms to the zoning regulations for two families for Newark, with the exception of being in a zone where that is not permitted. We are proposing a 19-foot wide building with 3 foot on the north side for a setback and 4 foot on the south side. It'll be at the property line in the front. You'll have one tandem garage serviced by a 10-foot curb cut and driveway. And it will have a 30-foot rear yard where we will have grass and where the trash enclosure will be located, as well as the HVAC condensers. We will be planting 1 street tree in the frontage of the property, and as well as 2 trees in the backyard in the grass area. I can go over the floor plans of the house. We have, again, the main entrance in the front gives access to a stair that gives access to all of the 3 floors. We have the tandem garage for 2 cars to be able to park. We have a recreation area that's interiorly connected to the 2nd floor apartment via a stair. That area gives access to the rear yard. It has a powder room and a living space, and Also, the laundry closet is located in this area for this apartment. Upstairs, we have a 3-bedroom apartment. And then on the 3rd floor, we also have a 3-bedroom apartment. That one has its own laundry facility within that apartment. And we have the elevation here, which we are proposing. The front has a masonry on the ground floor, and then we have the composite siding on the upper floors. And on the sides, we have vinyl siding. And we're also, because we have side yards and on both sides, in this case, we can comply with the glazing requirements of the city, and therefore not request a variance for glazing. That pretty much concludes my testimony towards the architecture of the project.
Counsel, further questions for this witness?
George, do you have a rendering?
I do.
Can we see it?
I'll share that right now. This is the rendering. I believe this was submitted with the package for the application. Again, this is the masonry on the ground floor and the composite siding on the upper floors.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Mr. Chairman, I don't have any other questions for Mr. Fernandez.
Are there questions from the board for the architect? Questions for the architect from the board? Mr. Fernandez, what type of balconies are those?
Those are just decorative. They're not going to be. They're not really accessible from the apartments.
So they're not they're not Juliet's either.
No.
Any other questions from the board? Are there questions for the architect from the public? If so, please identify yourself by using the raised hand feature at the bottom of your computer device or mobile screen. I see someone whose name is vaguely familiar. Ms. Juma. Ms. Juma, did you have a question or did you?
Yes, I do have a question for the architect.
This is Nana Juma, the city's zoning officer. Ms. Juma.
George, can you pull up page A1 of your site plan, which is sheet 8, I believe?
Sure.
On the first floor plan, can you tell me the size or measurement of what you're calling a powder room, the linen closet, or what you label a linen closet?
Sure. It's 5 by 2 foot 5 inches. 5 foot width by 2 foot 5 inches.
Can you describe what the purpose of that closet is?
It could be for the occupier to store linen, towels, or whatever extra clothes they would be washing in the laundry area across the hall. It's just a feature that we've been used to providing in these plans.
In addition to the closet outside of the laundry room?
Yeah, that one, I mean, we always get asked for as much closets as we can provide in these houses. So whatever space we can provide, we try to accommodate.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions for the architect? Any other questions for the architect? Questions from the public or the board? Seeing none, counsel?
Mr. Chairman, if we can have Matt Flynn sworn in, please.
Much younger and better looking than that other gentleman whose name escapes me. Mr. Flynn, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Now, could you state your name, give us your address in relationship to this application, please?
Matthew Flynn, FLYNN. Business address is 101 Gibraltar Drive, Morris Plains, New Jersey. I'm the project planner.
Ms. Flynn, is your planning license in the state of New Jersey in full force and effect?
It is.
Ms. Flynn is well known to this board, will accept him as an expert in the field of planning. Counsel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt, the question everybody has, the zoning here was just changed to a C2. So why should the board permit us to put this two-family dwelling there? Tell us why.
Sure. So like council mentioned, we are in the C2 zone, so we are requesting a D1 use variance. The enhanced burden of proof is the site suitability standard, and I think we can look at the size and the shape of the property itself, as well as the surrounding properties to meet that standard. Right next door, we have two other two-family dwellings, and I can show the board that on a map if the board wants to see that. Right across the street, we have a two-family, a three-family. So even though we're in a C2 zone, we are looking at an area that's characterized by detached residential dwellings. So I would say that providing two family is a better zoning alternative than what's permitted. And what's permitted here in terms of residential would be mixed use. So there would have to be a non-residential component to that. And again, when we look at what's happening in this immediate area, we don't see non-residential, we see detached residential. So I think that providing that non-residential component would actually stand out in the context of the neighborhood. Also, by way of the zoning and the C2 zone, you could get a number of standalone non-residential uses with no residential component to it whatsoever, like a bar, a restaurant, things that might be a little more disruptive to the residential characteristics of the neighborhood. Also, in terms of site suitability, for a mixed-use building, that would require 3,500 square feet of lot area. Detached commercial requires 5,000 square feet. We don't have enough for either of those things. What we do have enough lot area for is the proposed two-family, which allows us to get that building without any bulk variances, which is obviously a good thing here. In terms of the positive criteria, purposes of zoning from the municipal land use law, Purpose A, promotion of the general welfare. We're providing a variety of housing options to meet the needs of all New Jersey residents in a location where we do have compatibility. Purpose G, variety of uses in appropriate locations. Again, going back to that site suitability. Purpose I, desirable visual environment. Again, we're continuing a trend here, and it's a better zoning alternative than having non-residential at this location, given what's around us. And purpose M, efficient use of land. Again, we're not requesting any bulk variances. That would not be the case if we were proposing a permitted use. We would at least need a lot area variance, and I'm sure many other bulk variances along with it due to the undersized nature of the lot. In terms of the negative criteria, I think I addressed it. No substantial detriment to the public or to the zone. To the extent we are in the C2 zone, we are looking at an area that has detached residential around us. And in terms of potential detriment to the public, again, I think that this is a much better zoning alternative than the many other permitted non-residential uses that could go here. So all said, I think this is an appropriate application. The site suitability standard is met by virtue of the shape of the property, the size, as well as the site surroundings, making the application before you, I think, the perfect fit for this site.
Matt, before Chairman Alfon asks you to, I'm going to ask you to. You offered to show the map, so show it.
I'm not going to say he was wrong there.
Okay. So this is the map that I was just talking about. The numbers that we see on each of the properties here relate to number of dwelling units. This is our property here, and next door we have a two-family. Next to that, we have a two-family. Across the street, we have a two-family, a three-family, a two-family. What we don't really see, aside from this building on the corner of 12th and Springfield, is non-residential. But again, when we look mid-block between Springfield and 18th, what we do see is detached residential. And I'll just add that at the end of this block, when we get to 18th, we actually have townhouse developments, again, making residential, I think, a better fit for this particular location.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Flynn.
Mr. Flynn, did you provide a copy of that map? Excuse
I
me.
will do so right now.
Okay, let's mark that map. It's one page, A1. Okay, council?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any questions for the planner from the board? Any questions for the planner from the board? If none, Commissioner Riviera?
Would you be allowed to build a three-family there if you wanted to?
No. Not without
Thank-
variance relief.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from the board for the planner? Are there any questions from members of the public for the planner? Ms. Juma?
Good evening, Nana Juma, zoning officer again. Matt, can you provide us with where you have that information or where you verified that information in terms of the usage of those parcels in the exhibit that you showed us?
Yeah, this exhibit is from a program that we use in my office called njpropertyrecords.com.
Okay, thank you. Chair, I also have another or two other questions for the architect, but there's someone else with their hand raised, so I'll wait.
Okay. Who is, I don't see another hand raised. Ms. Juma, can you
Someone
say-
by it's spelled ALTAM.
Ms. Mejia, do you see that?
I don't see any hands on this.
I didn't hear you. You said you don't see that raised hand?
I do not.
Okay, in that case,
Excuse me?
I said, no, there are no raised hands that I see at all.
Yeah.
okay, interesting. But
But let
if
me
I
just
may,
ask, let's just make sure. Excuse me. Do any members of the public have a question for the planner? If so, please raise your hand. You could raise your hand by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your computer screen or mobile device. If you're on the telephone, you can press *9. I see one raised hand. Screen name LaToya Harden. Screen name LaToya Harden. Ms. Harden, you're going to be invited to come in as a panelist. Okay, and here you come. Ms. Mejia?
They've declined the invitation.
Ms. Harden, if you have a question, you have to accept the invitation to join as a panelist. If you don't have a question, if you could lower your hand, that will let me know you don't have a question and don't want to join the panel. Okay. Ms. Harden has declined to join the panel. Okay. Ms. Commissioner Torres.
Yes, I just want to No, is this a two-bedroom unit or a three-bedroom?
And let's call back the architect, because we're gonna jump to him anyway. Don't go far though, Mr. Flynn.
Sure. Jorge Fernandez, there will be 3-bedroom apartments, 2 of them.
Oh, okay. Three-bedroom apartment on each.
Bedroom, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Juma,
My question to the architect is the ceiling the ceiling of the 3rd floor level to the top or peak of your building. Is it true that it's 11 feet or about 11 feet? I'm asking because I'm curious, do you have a 4th floor plan?
No,
attic? Is there an attic?
there is no livable attic. The attic merely has a hatch that gives access for maintenance of the HVAC unit. But that could be placed up there, but there's no livable attic here.
My second question was, can you tell me the height of the swing gates at the front of the property?
Gates, we push the gates on either side, correct?
Correct.
Yes, those can be 3 feet high as the is required.
You're saying they're 3 feet high?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
thank you, Ms. Juma. Are there any other questions for Mr. Fernandez or Mr. Flynn from either the board or the public? Seeing none, council.
Mr. Chairman, we submit.
Are there any members of the public that would like to make a statement regarding this application? If so, please raise your hand. I'll submit the oath, and you'll have 3 minutes to make your statement regarding this application. If you care to make a statement, please identify yourself by using the raised hand feature at the bottom of your computer or mobile screen. If you're on a telephone, press *9. Please do so now. I see no raised hands. Council has submitted. Is that correct, council?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
We're now in discussion. Is there any discussion from the board? Discussion on this matter from the board. Commissioner Riviero.
This application seems to be very straightforward, especially with the 2, 1, 3 family properties next to it. They're not asking for much, so I'll be in favor of it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank
Riviero. Commissioner Kovian.
I agree with Commissioner Rivera. It's pretty straightforward, so I will also be in support of this application.
Thank you. Any further comments from the board? Further comments from the board? If none, may I have a motion, please? Commissioner Riviero.
Motion to approve ZBA-24-26 located at 628 South 12th Street.
We have a motion for approval. May I have a second?
Second.
Motion for approval, Commissioner Riviero, second, Commissioner Jones. Call the roll, please.
Member Hardesty,
Yes.
Member Comesañez,
Yes.
Member Jones,
Yes.
Member Rivero,
Yes.
Member Cobian,
Yes.
Member Torres,
Yes.
Chair Alphont.
Yes. Congratulations, your application has been granted.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Council, you have resolutions to be memorialized.
Yes, we have three, well, actually two. The first one is ZBA ZBA 23-49, 291, 293-295, 297 Orange Street, and 294-236 Lackawanna Avenue.
This is, did you say ZBA 23-49?
Correct. It just has a long address.
Right. Ms. Juma, you have a concern here?
Mr. Chair, if I may, I joined a few minutes late, so I'm not sure whether you addressed this already, but I've noticed there is still a number of attendees in the meeting, and it's possibly a mix-up because there was an original agenda that went out that included an application for 1089 Broad Street. Did you mention that?
1089 Broad Street is not on the revised agenda, which was notice to the public. Ms. Mejia, can you tell us if 1089 Broad Street was adjourned to a date certain?
No, it doesn't have an official date, but it was removed from our agenda for insufficient notice.
So for folks who are here regarding 1089 Broad Street, the municipal land use law is very specific in its notice requirements. Notice must be given 10 days before the meeting. The applicant failed to notice pursuant to the agenda, so they could not go forward. They will have to give new notice. That means they'll have to comply with the statute, which requires certified mailings to all property owners within 200 feet and a sign on the property, which are ordinance requests. And I would imagine that they're just going to use the same sign, but hopefully put a new date on it. They do not have a date yet. Is that correct, Ms. Mejia?
Yes, that's correct.
So that is not being heard and it doesn't have a new date. Anyway, we are back to the memorialization of resolutions. ZBA-23. And let's get to that.
-49.
-49, 291, 299 Orange Street. Are there any proposed revisions or dissents? I hear none. Call the roll, please.
Member Hardesty,
Yes.
Member Comesañas,
Yes.
Member Jones,
Yes.
Member Rivero,
Yes.
Member Cobian,
Yes.
Member Torres,
Yes.
Chair Alphonse.
Yes, council.
The next one is ZBA-23-75, 334-362 Elizabeth Avenue.
Are there any, ZBA 23-75 Elizabeth Avenue, any proposed revisions or dissents? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Member Hardesty,
Yes.
Member Comesañas,
Yes.
Member Jones,
Yes.
Member Rivero,
Yes.
Member Cobian,
Yes.
Member Torres,
Yes.
Chair Alphonse.
Yes, council.
ZBA-22-63, 219 South 6th Street.
Two 219 South 6th Street. Are there any proposed revisions or dissents? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Member Hardesty,
Yes.
Member Comesañas,
Yes.
Member Jones,
Yes.
Member Rivero,
Yes.
Member Cobian,
Yes.
Member Torres,
Yes.
Chair Alphonse.
Yes, council.
Okay, I know ZBA 24-03 is listed on the agenda. However, this will not be memorialized because the attorney, there's a disagreement regarding the deed restriction. So I'm going to listen to the recording to confirm that the restriction was actually stated on the record. So we're gonna table that till the next meeting.
Okay.
That's all I have.
How are we doing with resolutions? How far behind are we?
I think we're pretty up to date. Maybe we're at May now. Sylvia, you can correct me.
Somewhere
Yeah,
around
we're up
there,
to May.
Okay, good, good to hear. Ms. Mejia, any minutes to be memorialized?
and not this week.
Council, are there any matters for which we are required to convene into executive session?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Well, that concludes our agenda unless anyone has a concern that they need to raise.
I have a question, but I'll wait till we agree to adjourn so that we could cut the recording off. It's just a question for you, Chair.
Excuse me. Okay, well, then if our meeting is concluded, a motion to adjourn is in order.
Motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Have a good night.
Good night, Chair.
Good night,
Good night.
everyone.
Good night.
Jerry, I still have a question for you too.
Give me 1 second, Commissioner Hardesty. I need to
I'm
remove
waiting
the
for you to cut it off.
attendees.